You can make $90,000 a year and feel completely broke. And you can make the exact same $90,000 and feel untouchable. Same paycheck. The difference comes down to one number almost nobody can name. Meet Jace and Logan. Same job, same company, same $90,000 salary landing every Friday, same gas station coffee on the commute in. On paper, you couldn't tell them apart. Then both their cars break down the same week. Same shop, a $1,400 repair each. Jace taps his card and goes back to scrolling. Doesn't even flinch. Logan reads the estimate 3 times, feels his stomach drop, and opens his banking app to figure out which payment he can push to next month. Same income, same bill, 2 completely different humans. And what separates Jace from Logan isn't discipline, it isn't luck, and it is definitely not the salary. It's a number neither of them ever talks about. Net worth.
Think about what that moment actually feels like in that parking lot. Jace gets the $1,400 estimate and his brain barely registers it. It's a number. He pays it. He moves on. The problem starts and ends in the same afternoon. Logan gets the exact same estimate and his entire nervous system fires. Not because he's weak, not because he's irresponsible, but because his brain knows, at some level he might not even be fully conscious of, that $1,400 is a genuine threat to his financial stability. And a brain that detects a threat to survival cannot just switch that off on command. This is the real cost of not crossing the first net worth line. It's not embarrassment, it's not inconvenience, it's a brain that cannot fully relax ever because it's always running a background calculation about whether the next surprise will break everything.
We are obsessed with income as a culture. How much do you make? What's the salary? What's the raise? But income is just water flowing through your hands. Net worth is what's actually left in the bucket after it flows through. And it turns out the bucket has 3 lines painted on the inside. 3 levels where once you cross them, the water starts behaving completely differently. Your experience of money, how it feels, what it allows, what fears it removes, changes fundamentally at each line. Jace had crossed the first line. Logan hadn't. That's the entire story of the car repair. Today, I'm going to walk you through all 3 levels, what changes at each one, what the math looks like, and what the research says actually happens to people who cross them. The 3rd level does something that most people completely don't see coming. We'll get there.
My name is Jude, and I've spent an embarrassing amount of time figuring out why 2 people with identical paychecks can live in completely different financial realities. If you've ever felt like you're working hard and somehow standing still, subscribe, because today we're mapping the 3 net worth levels where your entire experience of money changes. And I'll warn you now, the 3rd level does something to people that almost nobody sees coming. Plenty of people reach it and are still miserable. The research finally explains why. We'll get there. Level 1, $100,000. Escape velocity. I know for some of you that number feels impossibly far away, and for others it feels almost insultingly small. Stay with me, because this is the most important threshold in the entire video, and the math behind it is genuinely beautiful. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's late business partner, a man worth billions, was once asked about building wealth, and his answer has been repeated for a reason. He said the first $100,000 is a grind, but you have to do it. Find a way to get your hands on $100,000. After that, you can ease off the gas a little. Why would a billionaire fixate on a number that to him was essentially a rounding error? Because the first $100,000 is the only stretch of the entire wealth building journey where you do basically all the work yourself. Let me show you exactly why. Say you're saving and investing $10,000 a year, earning a 7% return. Getting from zero to your first $100,000 takes you roughly 7 to 8 years. And during those years, the market is barely helping you. Almost every dollar in that account is a dollar you personally earned, saved, and refused to spend. It's a slog. It feels slow because it is slow. But watch what happens next. Going from $100,000 to $200,000 doesn't take another 8 years. It takes about 5. From $200,000 to $300,000, under 4 years. And here's the part that should make you sit up. Going from $500,000 to a full $1 million takes about the same amount of time it took you to scrape together that very first $100,000. Except now you're generating 10 times the wealth in that same window. Same effort, same patience, wildly different output. Because somewhere in there, your money quietly clocked in for its first full day of work.
At $100,000 invested at 7%, your portfolio throws off about $7,000 a year on its own. That's nearly a full year's maxed out IRA contribution, earned by money while you were asleep. You spent 8 years pushing the snowball uphill, and at $100,000, it finally crests the top and starts rolling down the other side on its own. The work doesn't stop, but you're no longer the only one doing it. The math starts working with you instead of against you. This is the thing Charlie Munger understood about that first 100,000 that most people never articulate clearly. It's not a goal, it's a turning point. The moment where the journey fundamentally changes in character.
But here's the part almost nobody talks about. The real magic of $100,000 isn't the math at all. It's what it does to your brain. There's a study I think about constantly. Researchers set up in a New Jersey mall and asked regular shoppers to imagine a car repair. For half the people, the repair cost $150. For the other half, $1,500. Then they had everyone take a standard cognitive test, the kind that measures raw problem-solving ability. For wealthier shoppers, no difference between the two groups. But for lower-income shoppers who imagined the $1,500 repair, scores dropped dramatically, about a full standard deviation lower. Same people, same brains. The only thing that changed was 30 seconds of worrying about money they didn't have. The researchers described this effect as comparable to losing a full night of sleep.
Picture going through your entire life, every decision, every conversation, every parenting moment, every shot at a promotion, permanently a little sleep deprived. Not because you're tired, but because some part of your mind is always running a background calculation about whether you can cover the next emergency. That's Logan in the parking lot. His brain isn't worse than Jace's, it's just taxed. It's carrying a load that Jace's brain isn't carrying, and that load costs real cognitive performance on every task that requires focus, judgment, or long-term thinking. The Federal Reserve found that nearly 30% of American adults couldn't handle a surprise $500 expense using cash or savings. Around 30% couldn't cover 3 months of expenses by any means at all. That's not a discipline problem, that's a cushion problem, and $100,000 buys you out of it. This is why $100,000 is level 1. It's not about getting rich. It's not about the yacht or the vacation or the luxury purchase. It's about getting your mind back. $100,000 in net worth buys you something that money at lower levels simply cannot. A brain that isn't humming with low-grade financial static 24 hours a day. The quiet that lets you think clearly, negotiate effectively, parent patiently, and make decisions based on what's actually right, rather than what you can desperately afford. Jace isn't smarter than Logan. He's just quieter inside. And that quietness gives him an advantage in every single area of life that requires clear thinking, which is basically all of them. Quick, honest check. Are you below this line, sitting right on it, or past it? Hold that answer in your head. It'll change how you hear everything that comes next. Okay, you've hit escape velocity. The static is gone, the background calculation has stopped. Now what? Now you enter the strangest, most psychologically interesting stretch of the entire wealth-building journey. The climb from $500,000 to $1 million. And the reason it's strange is that for the first time, the most productive worker in your household might not be a person. Let's go back to the math, because it tells the whole story. At $500,000 invested, a 7% return generates around $35,000 a year. Sit with that. $35,000 appearing annually, produced by nothing but money you already have. For context, that's roughly what the typical American earns from a full-time job. Your portfolio is now pulling in a respectable second income, and it doesn't call in sick, it doesn't ask for a raise, and it doesn't hate Mondays. At a full $1 million, that same 7% throws off about $70,000 a year. That's more than the typical American individual earns in a year. Your money now out-earns a full-time salary, and it does it while you sleep, while you're on vacation, while you're doing literally anything else. This is the level where the phrase work optional stops being a fantasy and starts being something you can actually see on the horizon.
Here's how level 2 feels in real life. It's the meeting where your boss says something genuinely unreasonable, and instead of swallowing it and nodding, you realize, calmly, almost surprised by yourself, that you could walk. You won't today, but you could. And that single internal shift, knowing you have a real choice, quietly rewires how you negotiate, what you tolerate, and how much of your self-respect you're willing to trade for a paycheck. It also shows up in smaller, almost invisible ways. It's not checking the price of every item before it goes in the cart. It's booking the direct flight instead of the 2-layover special to save $60. It's the dishwasher dying, and the entire crisis lasting about 4 minutes. You Google a replacement, buy it, and move on. The problem existed, now it doesn't. None of these are luxuries. They're just friction being quietly removed from your week, one decision at a time. Real talk, this level is rare. About 21% of US households are millionaires, and the line for the top 10% of all American households by net worth now sits closer to $2.4 million. So if you cross $1 million in net worth, you're not doing okay. You're in the top fifth of the entire country. The problem is, it rarely feels that way, and there's a specific reason for that, which brings me to the trap hiding inside level 2. Every time your income goes up, there's a gravitational pull to let your spending drift up right behind it. Researchers call this the hedonic treadmill. You get the raise, you get the nicer car, and within about a year, the nicer car just feels like your car. The thrill evaporates, but the payment stays. So you upgrade again, chasing a high that keeps resetting to zero. This is how people pulling $300,000 a year still end up broke. Their money never gets the chance to take that second job because every dollar gets drafted into a bigger mortgage, a leased Range Rover, and a lifestyle that quietly eats the future to feed the present. Level 2 isn't about earning more. It's about having the nerve to let the gap between what you make and what you spend stay open long enough for compounding to walk through it.
Notice the pattern forming here. Level 1 didn't add a luxury. It subtracted a fear. The fear of the emergency, the background calculation, the financial static. Level 2 subtracts another one, the fear of being trapped by a single employer, of having no exit. Each level you climb isn't about adding stuff to your life. It's about removing fears from it. That's the real architecture of financial freedom. Not acquisition, subtraction. Keep that pattern in mind because level 3 removes the biggest fear of all, and it's the one almost nobody is fully prepared for.
Level 3, $2.5 million to $5 million, buying back your time. There's a scene in a movie called The Gambler where a character lays out his entire philosophy of money. He says the goal isn't to be rich. The goal is to hit a specific number, put it somewhere safe, and reach what he calls FU money. A position where no person, no boss, no bank can make you do anything you don't want to do. His number was $2.5 million. And here's what's remarkable about that. It wasn't just a screenwriter picking a dramatic number. It's almost mathematically precise. And it's built on one of the most rigorously tested ideas in all of personal finance. It's called the 4% rule, and it comes from researchers who tested decades of market history to answer one question. How much can you pull out of a portfolio every year without ever running out of money? The answer they kept landing on was around 4%, which gives us a beautifully simple shortcut. Whatever you spend in a year, multiply it by 25. That's your number. The point where your investments can fund your life basically forever. If your life costs $40,000 a year, your number is $1 million. If you spend $80,000, it's $2 million. And if you want to live on $100,000 a year without ever working another day, you need about $2.5 million. The screenwriter did the math. That number is real.
Push it to $5 million and you can support a $175,000 to $200,000 lifestyle off the returns alone. And you're now in the top 4% of all U.S. households. Out of roughly 135 million households in this country, only about 5.5 million have $5 million or more. This is genuinely rare air. And I'll be honest with you, this is the level I see people get most wrong because the math finally works. The money is finally there. And people assume the meaning will show up automatically. It doesn't. The two research camps actually got in a room together and worked it out. For most people, roughly 80%, who are already reasonably content, more money really does keep buying more happiness, all the way up with no ceiling. But for the unhappy 20%, money relieves their suffering up to about $100,000 a year in income. And then it just stops. Because their unhappiness was never really about money in the first place. And no amount of net worth can buy your way out of a problem that money didn't cause. That's the secret hiding inside level 3. The people who get here and stay miserable are the ones who thought the number itself was the destination. The people who get here and finally feel different are the ones who understand what the number is actually for. For years, the famous study everyone quoted said happiness flatlines once you hit about $100,000 a year in income. That past that point, more money just stops moving the needle. Then, a researcher named Matthew Killingsworth came along, tracked over 1 million real-time mood reports from thousands of people, and found that wasn't true at all. Happiness kept rising right along with income, with no ceiling in sight. So who was right? Here's the answer, and it's the most useful idea in this entire video. The people who get to level 3 and actually feel different use the number to buy the only thing money can genuinely purchase that matters in the long run: control over their own time. Waking up without an alarm, saying yes to the people they love and no to the work they hate. Being present for the things they used to miss because they were trapped at a desk, generating income to cover a lifestyle they barely had time to enjoy. Level 1 bought back a quiet mind. Level 2 bought back options. Level 3 buys back your one, finite, completely non-renewable resource, the actual hours of your life, from anyone who used to own them. That's the whole game. That is what's on the other side of the number. Let's put all 3 levels side by side so the architecture is completely clear. Level 1, $100,000, buys back your mind. It removes the background financial static that costs you cognitive performance, sleep quality, and decision-making clarity every single day. It's not wealth, it's quiet. Level 2, $500,000 to $1 million, buys back your options. It removes the fear of being trapped by a single employer, by a single city, by a single set of circumstances. It gives you the exit you never had to use, but changes everything about how you carry yourself. Level 3, $2.5 million to $5 million, buys back your time. It removes the most fundamental constraint of working life, the obligation to sell your hours to someone else to fund your existence. Each level doesn't add a luxury, each level removes a fear.
If you're sitting there thinking, I'm not even at level 1 yet, this is depressing. Stop. I need you to hear this clearly. The fact that these levels are rare isn't a reason to feel behind. It's the entire reason they're worth chasing. Nearly a third of this country can't cover 3 months of expenses. The bar to feel genuinely different in your financial life isn't infinite wealth. It's a cushion, then a choice, then your time back. That's it. 3 things. And the most encouraging part is the part we started with. The hardest, slowest, most thankless stretch of this entire journey is the climb to that first $100,000. The years where it's almost all you and the market is barely helping. Almost everyone who quits right there in the slog, right before the snowball crests the hill.
If you can just outlast the boring part, the part where progress feels invisible, where the market is barely moving the needle, where it would be so easy to just stop the automated transfer and spend that money on something you can actually see and feel right now. The math stops working against you and starts working for you. You don't have to get smarter. You don't have to find some secret investment strategy. You just have to get stubborn enough to keep going when it feels like nothing is happening. Because something is happening. The snowball is getting bigger. You just can't see it yet from the bottom of the hill. You don't reach level 3 by accident, and you don't reach level 1 overnight. You get there one boring, unglamorous, automated contribution at a time. So pick your level, not the fantasy one, the next one, the one that's actually within reach from wherever you're standing today. Because 10 years from now, that money is either going to be quietly working for you the way it works for Jace, or you're going to be working around the lack of it the way Logan does. The parking lot moment happens to everyone. The only question is which version of it you're living. We've been trained to measure ourselves by income, the number on the paycheck, the title in the email signature, the salary you'd admit to at a dinner party. But income is just the speed of the water. Net worth is the size of the bucket. Jace and Logan are two guys with identical $90,000 salaries living completely different lives in that parking lot. The only thing that ever separated them was which line in the bucket they had quietly crossed. Jace wasn't richer on payday, he was just further along the number line. That's it. That's the whole difference between the person who flinches at the $1,400 bill and the person who doesn't even look up from their phone. Let's make this practical, because knowing the 3 levels is useless without knowing what to actually do right now. Step 1. Calculate your exact current net worth today. Not roughly, exactly. Assets minus liabilities. Write it down. Most people have never done this honestly. You need to know where you're starting. Step 2. Set up an automatic investment contribution, even $200 a month. The amount matters less than the automaticity. It has to happen without a decision, or it won't happen consistently enough to matter. Step 3. If you have no emergency fund, build that first in a high-yield savings account. 3 to 6 months of expenses. This is your level 1 cushion, the thing that means the next $1,400 car repair doesn't wreck your week. Step 4. Once the cushion is built, every additional dollar goes into low-cost index funds. And you don't touch it. You don't watch it every day. You let the snowball do its work. Here's the thing nobody says clearly enough. The math of building net worth is not complicated. Spend less than you earn, invest the difference. Don't stop. Time does the rest. What's genuinely hard, what makes this feel impossible for most people, is that the human brain is not wired to delay gratification for 8 to 15 years. It's wired for immediate reward. It wants to turn the abstract future number into a concrete present experience right now. Every contribution you make to your investment account is a vote against your own immediate instincts. That's why automation matters so much. That's why defining enough matters so much. You're not just building a portfolio, you're building a system that defeats your own brain's short-term wiring on a monthly basis indefinitely. The people who reach all 3 levels aren't smarter, they just build better systems. I want to leave you with the image we started with. 2 people in a parking lot, same salary, same bill. 2 completely different experiences of the exact same moment. The goal isn't to be the person with the biggest number. The goal is to be the person who stops flinching, the person whose brain gets quiet, the person who has options, the person who owns their own time. Level 1 gives you your mind back. Level 2 gives you your choices back. Level 3 gives you your time back. 3 things. That's the whole architecture. The boring, unglamorous, automated, patient work of building net worth is really just the work of becoming someone who doesn't have to flinch. And that person is worth every month of the slog to become.
If this changed how you think about the number in your account, not the income, the net worth, hit the like button and subscribe. Every week, I break down the real math and psychology behind why some people build wealth and most people don't. And if you want the full breakdown on exactly how people are convincing themselves they can afford $900 a month car payments and what that decision is actually costing them over a lifetime, that video is next. The numbers are genuinely painful. I'll see you there.